Today, we turn to a warning. A warning that has shaken Ottawa, rattled investors, and sent political operatives scrambling into late-night strategy rooms. A warning from the Parliamentary Budget Office, a voice that rarely raises its tone unless something serious lies beneath the numbers. But here's the twist. While the PBO sounds the alarm about fiscal limits, growing deficits, and long-term risks, Mark Carney's strategy stands firm. Unshaken. Unmoved. And, according to insiders, perhaps the only plan in Ottawa that still makes sense. Today, you will hear the tension behind the headlines, the pressure behind the politics, and the part of this story the opposition hopes you never understand. Welcome to the investigation into Canada's financial crossroads. The PBO report landed like a cold whisper across the capital. Quiet, but chilling. It warned that Canada has limited room to cut taxes, with deficits projected to rise after Budget 2025. A simple sentence, but one that echoes deeper concerns. According to the PBO, keeping the debt-to-GDP ratio stable over the coming decades will require strict discipline. No grand tax cuts. No reckless promises. No political games. But as the report spread through Parliament Hill, another whisper began circulating. A whisper that said, Carney already expected this. Because while others chased applause lines and slogans, Carney built his budget like an economist, not a politician. Measured. Strategic. Grounded in reality, not fantasy. The PBO's analysis paints a tense picture. The debt-to-GDP ratio, once gently declining, is now projected to plateau. Future flexibility? Limited. Fiscal room? Tightening. Budget 2025 projects the debt-to-GDP ratio will stay mostly stable over the next 30 years, the PBO said. But here's where the suspense begins. Behind the scenes, some insiders claim the Conservative Party was preparing to use this report as a political weapon, long before it was even released. They expected chaos. They expected panic. They expected Canadians to lose confidence in Carney's economic direction. Instead, the opposite happened. The numbers were serious, yes. The risks were real, of course. But Carney's calm, steady budget made one thing clear. He had already built his plan for exactly this moment. Speaking in Montreal, Carney defended the budget not with fear, but with confidence. He emphasized protecting the very programs that keep Canadian families afloat. Childcare, dental care, pharmacare, the National School Food Program, health transfers, education support. Opposition leaders wanted shock. They wanted a stumble. They wanted Carney to flinch. He didn't. Instead, he said something that sent a quiet message across Parliament. This budget makes responsible choices to right-size government while protecting the essential social programs that give every Canadian a fair chance. To Carney, responsibility isn't a slogan. It's math. It's planning. It's discipline. And that's exactly what some politicians fear most. Because responsible budgets leave little room for political theater. And yet, the attacks came fast. Pierre Poilievre rushed to someone unknown with a message crafted for outrage, calling the budget phony accounting and a credit card disaster. His words were sharp, but noticeably light on actual numbers. Insiders say the Conservative war room had talking points prepared days in advance, assuming the PBO's language would be harsh enough to trigger panic. But here's where the plan fell apart. The report didn't expose a collapsing economy. It didn't show reckless spending. It didn't reveal secret deficits. Instead, it confirmed that Canada is navigating a tough global moment, and that Carney's plan keeps the country stable. Stable, in a world that is anything but. But there was something else inside the PBO report. A sentence some analysts called the real warning. The PBO said there is only a 7.5% chance the deficit to GDP ratio will fall every year between 2026 and 2030. Only 7.5%. Political opponents seized on that number instantly. But what they ignored is why that number exists at all. Global uncertainty. Slowing economies. Rising geopolitical tensions. A world shifting under the weight of instability. And in moments like these, Canada needs a strategist, not a showman. A leader who understands global markets. A leader respected by world economies. A leader who spent decades managing crises, not causing them. Someone like Mark Carney. Inside the report, the PBO also criticized the government's definition of capital expenses as overly expansive. A technical critique, but one with political consequences. Behind closed doors, some analysts speculated that certain programs were classified as long-term investments to protect operational spending. Not illegal. Not unethical. But strategic. A move only someone with deep financial expertise would understand how to execute. And once again, the fingerprints looked distinctly Carney-like. But here's where the suspense truly tightens. Some sources, speaking quietly, cautiously, claim the Carney government has internal projections the public hasn't seen. Projections that show Canada's long-term fiscal path stabilizing faster than the PBO estimates. Are these real? Are they optimistic? Are they political? No one knows. And that uncertainty adds another layer of tension to this unfolding story. But one thing is clear. Carney isn't panicking. Because Carney doesn't build budgets for headlines. He builds them for decades. As the PBO warns of fiscal limits, the country faces a familiar crossroads. One path leads to loud promises, tax cuts without funding, and political theater. The other leads to steady hands, measured planning, and long-term stability. The first path is easy to sell. The second requires courage. And today, Canadians are watching closely. Because when experts warn of fiscal danger, the question isn't who shouts the loudest. It's who understands the storm. And in that storm, Carney's strategy still stands strong. Grounded. Disciplined. Steady. The kind of leadership Canada may need now, more than ever.